they're blown away or we overfarmed our land, we don't have those minerals in the soil for the food to grow in general, unless people are doing really specific farming techniques to do it. So for example, I'll let you take a guess. How many cups of spinach would you have to eat of today's spinach to equal 1 cup of spinach to get all of the nutrients that you got in 1 cup of spinach 80 years ago?
20.
50.
About 80.
20.
It's between these two, it's 60.
What?
Wow.
He's right.
Oh my gosh.
Can you start?
It's 60, and that's one of the main reasons why we use the whole food supplements here is because, I mean, I cannot fit in 60 cups of spinach on a daily basis. You know, beets are really good for me too, and I can eat like maybe, depending on the size of it, like a couple a day, but you know, therapeutically, my body might need 30 or 40 beets in order to make the changes that it needs to make to heal itself. So our food quality is fundamentally different than it has been before. Another one of the pieces of that is the way that we grow certain foods. So for example, there's one particular food that our farmers figured out. By the way, my undergraduate degree is in process engineering or industrial engineering, and I'm a big fan of efficiency. So like when I first heard that, my immediate response was, well, it's very efficient. I can understand that. But you can imagine why that might not be optimal for our bodies. Efficient for the farmer, but not for our bodies, which is that there's one particular plant that right before we harvest it, we spray it down with pesticides to completely kill it so that the cutting blades on the machines that harvest it don't get dull too quickly. Because this makes the machines last longer. So unfortunately, as you can imagine, consuming high amounts of pesticides is very deleterious to our health. And so we're actually ending up choosing in favor of the health of the machines rather than health of the human. And I think that's an Asimov film.
So what is that?
Hi, come on in.
All right.
So we were just,
What is that food?
that food is wheat.
Harvest.
Yeah, that food is wheat. You have perfect timing. We're just about to finish up on atopic eczema. Yeah, Maxine is sitting there, but she can move up to there because she's up next. Yeah, so that food is wheat, and when we were talking about one of the things that we do these days is right before we harvest wheat, we spray it down with pesticides in order to completely kill it so that when the machines come and harvest it, that it doesn't dull the blade as quickly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
We don't want to dull the blade.
we don't want to dull the blade.
Let's just kill people.
That's
instead.
a thing. So what we do instead is we consume. That's very cute. You know you're up next, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's neat that you're hiding in the furthest away from the presentation, but
It's not great.
right. So we do these. So we were talking about the quality of our food is different than it has been, and also our harvesting techniques. By the way, the wheat thing, it got weird. The time that we got weird was actually with very, very good intention. It was right after World War II where our food supplies got very low and we almost had a famine here in America. And so right after that, we got really smart and we said, okay, we need to grow more food in less area. And so we did our farming research and we discovered that if we genetically modified the wheat plant, then we could grow more wheat in a smaller amount of area. And that's where genetically modified foods came from. Unfortunately, because it was a very urgent situation, we didn't test that very well. And so, or really very much at all. And so we didn't observe things like when bugs would eat the wheat, their stomachs would explode. It's like, oh, that's possibly a problem. And that's, the main reason why so many Americans have sensitivity to wheat today is because we've digestively associated wheat with pesticides for such a long time that our bodies just have the same reaction. However, I do find that clinically people, that when they have wheat in In Europe, especially France, they don't tend to have the same reaction. They don't tend to have the same responses because it is a different quality of food there, right? It all comes back to quality of food. So we were talking about the different pattern differentiations that lead to atopic eczema. And just before that, we were talking about the atopic march and how food sensitivities come in right after the eczema does, spleen G deficiency, and then finally blood deficiency with dry wind. So that will show up primarily in dryness. So the dryness and the itching, it's like the whole body and the fluids are just drying up. Okay, what question, and there are specific herbs and specific herbal formulas, and the design of those is very specific to your individual constitution and what's going on with you right now. So for example, a person might first present with damp with heat, and then it might be, oh, okay, actually that heat's gotten deeper, we need to go address it here. Maybe they've been maybe they went to go visit, maybe they went to Burning Man and they were out in the desert for a couple of weeks, and they come back and they're like really hot and dry. So formulas will change according to the constitution of the person, what's going on with the person. What questions do you have? Sure.
So you mentioned supplements or minerals and deficiencies that could help alleviate some of these symptoms. What about hydration?
Right, so I'm assuming that you're drinking water. You should be drinking half your body weight in water on a day that you are not exercising or out in the heat. If you're doing either of those things, you need to drink more water than that. And depending on the type of exercising, depending on how much sweating that you're doing, you're gonna go for somewhere around a liter an hour, which is 2 of those kind of small bottles, unless you're doing something like cycling out in the heat, and then you're gonna go for a liter and a half of water an hour. So that's a basic, that's a foundation. However, sometimes it might feel like that water's not really getting in, a cellular dehydration problem. And that's where we would turn to minerals are gonna be, salts and minerals are gonna be number 1 for that. But there are other reasons that the body might not be absorbing those properly, and then we turn to Chinese herbs. Good, what other questions? I know I talked a heck of a lot longer than I was planning to, but we had a lot of fun, we went all over the place.
I love it.
So I came in late, obviously, but are you suggesting staying away from the wheat completely?
So we do genetic testing in our clinic because we can tell very clearly with the genetic test whether somebody can tolerate wheat or not.
How does that time you were explaining why we are spleen deficient and that the food is a big part of that. So why? Is it just our spleen? Is it our other organs? Like why is the spleen specifically the one that gets deficient because of that problem?
Okay. So because the spleen is another way of saying like our digestive system and the distribution of nutrients throughout the body. So if, like for example, we eat food, we put it into our mouths, and it goes into our stomachs where it falls into a vat of hydrochloric acid. And it falls into a vat of hydrochloric acid, and it gets transmuted it gets broken up into these little particles that then our blood takes and distributes out. And it first goes to the heart. So if the digestive system is weak, then no matter how good the quality of our food is, then our digestive system, if it's like, let's say the amount of hydrochloric acid in your stomach is this much, how good of a job do you think it's going to do at turning your food into the nutrients that your body needs?
That's so good.
Yeah, and yet there's a very, very commonly prescribed pharmaceutical that we use to do just that. What is it?
Oh, all those, they sell over the counter.
Antacid will do it, and then there's another one.
PPIs?
Yeah, proton pump inhibitors, what are some names of proton pump inhibitors? Nexium, Prilosec, so things like that. By the way, there is for people that take those for longer than the prescribed amount. Does anybody know what the prescribed amount is for a Nexium or a Prilosec?
For life.
It's 6 weeks. You're only ever supposed to be on that stuff for 6 weeks. I don't know I have never seen anybody that has ever been told 6 weeks or that was taken off that in 6 weeks. It is for life, but the recommended time to be on a proton pump inhibitor is 6 weeks. For anyone that has been on it longer than that, There is an
undigested food.
undigested food, right? So think about it, right? If your body is starving because like that hydrochloric acid, you don't have enough hydrochloric acid in the tank to make your food into the nutrients, then one of the things that's gonna happen is that your body's gonna starve, and what is the muscle that's working all the time?
Heart.
Your heart, so you're gonna show up with heart problems. Guess what the increased rate is?
Oh, it must be awful.
The number, so you are X times more likely to have a cardiovascular event if you are on a proton pump inhibitor for longer than 6 weeks.
80%.
10 times.
Yeah, it's a times.
Oh.
10, 20?
20.
Jeez.
20 times more likely to have a cardiovascular event if you're on a proton pump inhibitor for longer than 6 weeks. And I saw that clinically for years. Did he answer your question, or would you like me
I
to?
would like you to answer it. No, I love you. So why would somebody be on this PPI that you're talking about?
Well, that's a great question. Do you mind if I borrow this chair?
Not at all.
Why would somebody be on a PPI for longer than 6 weeks? Why do you get put on a PPI?
It's not
Because
fixing
they're
the
still
problem.
having the problems.
Because they're not solving the problems. But like, all right, so let's go back to, we were having the devil's advocate conversation earlier about like, all right, so why is this such a, why is this? Why would you get put on a proton pump inhibitor? Why would you be on a proton pump inhibitor for longer than 6 weeks?
Because it doesn't fix the problem.
It doesn't fix the
So
problem.
you have to continue on it until it gets fixed,
Mm-hmm.
which it doesn't.
Right, it's like putting, there's
It's a Band-Aid.
it's a Band-Aid, and sometimes we need Band-Aid, we're talking about like something, like there's a reason the Band-Aid makes a whole lot of money, is because sometimes we need a Band-Aid, right? But in this particular case, so why are we prescribed a proton pump inhibitor in the first place? What might you go through?
Yeah, what is
So
somebody
acid
having?
reflux.
Acid reflux, perfect, good example. So I have acid reflux, I go to the doctor, and I say, I got this thing, I got the itis, and the doctor says, here you go, take this little purple pill. And I take the little purple pill, and what happens?
It makes you feel better.
I feel better! Yay! I had a problem, I went to the guy who is known to have the solution to this problem, he gives me the thing, I feel better. Then what happens?
Therein lies the
That
problem.
happens again.
It's
And then you
temporary.
take it again.
Right, it's an illusion, right? It's like, maybe I have a house that's settling, and instead of dealing with any foundation problems, I just angle the pictures. It's fine. I had a buddy one time that had a Volkswagen Bug, and that always had car problems, and his friend had taught him the trick of get a really good radio.
Oh my goodness.
And that's what he did. How good do you think he was at diagnosing problems with his car? Lousy. But he had a great radio.
So he couldn't hear them.
Yeah, so he couldn't hear. Well, and nobody else could either. Because then, that was the thing, right? So, right, so we have a problem of, I got this acid reflux up here. Okay, so what causes that? What causes acid reflux?
And the irony is, for a lot of people, it's not enough acid in their stomach.
Right.
And
so
you're giving
what
a
are the things?
PPI to reduce the acid, which
Yeah.
only makes it worse.
Yeah, tell us more about that. Do you mind if why would not enough acid in the stomach cause acid reflux? If that sounds counterintuitive, I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
So what happens is then as the food is coming down in there, and there's less acid in there, then it has a tendency to kind of like bubble up, burst up into the esophagus, which then causes the burning or loosens the sphincter. Well, you get two problems. You got just that, and then you get people who eat too much sugar, which loosens the esophageal sphincter, and that opens the stomach acids up into the esophagus as well.
Good, and that valve, what controls the tightness of that valve? Got a valve down here, it's right above the stomach, what controls that? Muscles, and there's a specific nutrient that controls the tonicity of that valve. Gotta have this in order for that valve to close.
Tell me, doc.
Calcium.
Calcium.
By the way, what do we have calcium in? millennials, he'll probably be a little too young to answer this one, but for people that went to school before, we had whiteboards all the time. We had something else that we used. What was it? Chalkboards. Yeah, it was great because you got to huff chalk dust all the time. It was fantastic.
Knock those erasers on.
Yeah, clean the erasers, like pop it on the floor. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. Okay, right, so that's calcium. Chalk is made out of calcium, right?
So we should start nibbling on chalk.
There you go. Yeah, and we're done here. We're
A whole new generation storing chalk.
So the point of it is that's one of the forms of calcium, and it's pretty dense. It's pretty hard to digest, right? We get it from bones and shells. Like it's a really dense thing. How much stomach acid do you think you need to digest that?
All of it.
Right. So if you have weak stomach acid, you don't have enough, and then you eat some calcium, your body's
Your tongue.
Yeah.
That's why Tom looked at.
exactly, which is what allays it, and you eat some calcium and you have weak stomach acid to begin with, then you're not gonna get any better because you don't have the ability to digest it. Well, you're gonna get, like a little bit better. If you, especially if you're taking a pill to decrease the amount of stomach acid you have, right? So it's exactly counter, it's exactly the opposite direction that will fix the problem and that will contribute to your long-term health. So what do we do instead?
Increase the stomach acid.
We increase the stomach acid, yes. And we eat the foods that have calcium in them, or we take the supplements, the whole food supplements that have calcium in them, and then that sphincter works the way that it's supposed to, and then we don't have acid reflux anymore. Yay!
So how do we increase the stomach fluid? Did you already go over that?
No, well, it was a little outside the scope of what we're talking about. So we were talking about skin disorders, but yeah.
Oh! How did we get here?
You asked a question. So there's a few different ways that you can do it. Here in our, so I use the best stuff. So I'm going to tell you about the best stuff, and then I'm going to tell you about other things that you can use if you don't have access to the best stuff. So for example, so you want to use pancreatic enzymes combined with the nutrients that stimulate hydrochloric acid production, because it's going to help you digest all of the food. And that is through our whole food supplement line. And you want to get your nutrients from food because your body was designed to absorb nutrients from food. And pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
how
hey,
that goes.
Yeah.
And there's a danger to eating like synthetic vitamins that aren't made from food, is because they aren't also encapsulated with the other nutrients that we need. So for example, vitamin D, if you buy it over the counter, then it's a D-alpha tocopherol, and that's just the single. If there's a D, there's an A and a B and a C that are missing. If there's an alpha, then there's a beta that's missing. So we wind up with a selenium deficiency if we eat the D-alpha tocopherol that's sold on the counter. So that's why we don't want to do non-whole food supplements. As much as possible, we want to do whole food supplements. So that's the best way to do it. If you don't have access to that, then other ways that you could do it are apple cider vinegar.
Oh.
She's her favorite.
She said the word.
By the way, if you are a person, if apple cider, just as a side note, apple cider vinegar, there's a test called the apple cider vinegar test. And if somebody cannot tolerate vinegar, if it like makes their stomach burn, I don't mean your taste buds, I mean if it makes your stomach burn, then that's a sign that you are one of the few people that actually does make too much stomach acid. That does not mean that Prilosec is the right answer for you. That just means that you legit make too much stomach acid. But I've met one of those people in the decade of my career. So,
We're definitely.
I just can't hardly, period.
okay.
Vinegar.
I mean, I've always used it in association with being sick. You didn't have cider vinegar, so that's probably where my.
Try castor oil.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Then you won't have any problems with that.
Right, exactly, right.
You could put apple cider vinegar into some warm water with lemon and
Yeah.
kind of drink it.
I totally thought you were gonna say put it into the castor oil.
It's not even a castor oil. I mean, really decoct your liver fast.
Okay, any questions about atopic eczema? Okay, I feel good. I just and we answered all the questions as we went along. So thank you very much for your attention. about the personal skincare labels. And she has this really cute title for her topic, which is
Let me make something very clear. Your skin.